This is the morning of the 28th of July, 2024. Came across this clip on BoobTube, a place for 22 minutes and 12 seconds. Title, Anthony Scaramucci, quote, J.D. Vance looks like a homosexual Care Bear that married Chunky, end of quote. Well, he does look a little strange. I mean, he does wear mascara, eyeliner, I guess. And Peter Thiel was a very close friend of his. Peter Thiel owns a lot of different companies. He's also a venture capitalist, and he owns PayPal. And reportedly, he helped J.D. Vance get hired and get him into the business of venture capitalists, where he's made millions. And it's reported that Peter Thiel called Trump and asked Trump to make J.D. Vance his VP. Don't know if that's true, but that's a speculation. Let's listen to this clip.
But joining us right now, somebody who certainly I have a lot of respect for. I was watching him last night on CNN. Always does a great job. And, of course, I appreciate it when he takes the time to join us. Of course, I'm talking about the Mooch himself, Anthony Scaramucci, joining us.
Brian, how are you? Hopefully you can hear me okay. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear, my friend. I appreciate you coming on. Always enjoy your commentary and appreciate it when you take the time to join us. Boy, Mooch, we've got a lot to talk about. Let me start by saying this, and I think I know the answer to it, but I would imagine you are in full support of Kamala Harris. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I just sent her $30,000 to the Harris Victory Fund. I'll send more money behind that. I'll do a fundraiser for her here in New York. I will try to get her and her team over the hump on the Bitcoin stuff. I think it's mission critical for her. I think those guys are making a very big mistake with Bitcoin, Brian, because there's 70 million people that own Bitcoin or digital assets in the United States. Donald Trump is pro-Bitcoin. Why lose that piece of the electorate? I don't understand what they're doing. So Gary Gensler and Elizabeth Warren are making a colossal mistake. You've got dinosaurs and fossils trying to run this thing. And then you have political opportunists like, Trump doesn't know what the hell it is, but he knows, he's smart enough to know that he's got to support it. So,
right. What do you make?
Trying to get her around it. Mark Cuban and I, Mike Novogratz, we're all supporting her. We're all going to try to help her.
Good. You guys are prominent people and you can help. Well, is it a surprise to you at all, the attacks on the right, DEI hire? I mean, maybe this is a little bit extreme, Mooch, but I say when some people, not all, but when some people call her a DEI hire, it's almost like they want to call her the N-word. And I know that might be an extreme opinion, but I really feel that way.
I want him to call her what I would like him to do on a repetitive basis. I would like him to call her dumb as a rock, which he's called her. I'd like him to call her a DEI hire. I think it's very important that he does that. And let me explain to you why. 20.2 million baby boomers have died since the 2016 election. So Trump won the 2016 election. Whatever he says, he lost the 2020 election. He can lie about it all he wants. But you've had 20.2 million people die. At the same time, you've had 40 plus million people who are Generation Xers have risen to voting age over that period of time. And succinctly, you've had 8 million rise to the voting age after the 2022 midterm elections. That's only 2 years ago. So the demography has completely changed. The country, this beautiful, colorful mosaic known as America, has gotten more beautiful and more colorful. So I would like Donald Trump to call her a DEI candidate. Maybe he'll use the N-word eventually. I would like to see him do that. I'd like to see him call her dumb as a rock. And I would like to have him remind everybody that he's taking women's reproductive freedom away. And I would like him to do all those three things. And if he can do those every single day between now and the election, she'll have a 40-state victory over Donald Trump, because he is going to wildly upset these people. Okay. And they're going to stand on line. Women are going to stand on line to vote for Kamala Harris 8, 10, 12 hours. Doesn't matter. Don't give me a drink of water. Don't care. Keep calling her a DEI candidate. Keep calling her dumb as a rock. Because, the sexist stuff that he did to Hillary Clinton, workable for a baby boomer generation, 2016, not workable for an African-American, Indian-American woman. Okay, it's gonna be a nightmare for him. And I guarantee you that Susie Wiles, other people in his campaign are saying, "Are you crazy?" And then he's got, I finally figured out what JD stands for in JD Vance. It's just dull Vance. Just dull Vance. Okay. And so this poor son of a, what? He's sitting there, complete dullard, slightly imbecilic in terms of his narrative. And Trump hates it, because Trump's an actor. Trump is a stage manager. He's a casting director. And JD Vance, looks like a homosexual Care Bear that married Chucky. Like he's like the Cabbage Patch Care Bear that went rogue and had a gay marriage to Chucky. You know what I'm saying? And so because that's why these guys hate gay marriage, right? They're probably hiding something. Okay, I'm for gay marriage. I'm for women's reproductive rights. I've been a moderate Republican my whole life. I'm right of center with a big believer in capitalism and aspirational society, entrepreneurship. What I am not for is white males cramming down their lifestyle on other parts of our culture. I'm not for that. And moreover, I would also say that the woke left has done a miserable job too, Brian, because, they're hurting Kamala Harris. Now, if she doesn't come off of the national fracking ban, she will lose the election. Yep. Okay, she has to say to people, I'm running for president. I'm running for president of all people. Right. I'm going to put some slack in my policies because I have to recognize that I have to cater to the independents in our society. And a fracking ban is a non-starter for the people of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I agree. That's certainly a big issue.
If you want to stay with non-fracking, no problem. Yeah. We'll give it another shot in 2028 if Donald Trump lets us have an election in 2028.
Agree. If you're just joining us, Anthony Scaramucci. Mooch, with that being said, who do you think that Kamala Harris should choose if you had to choose for her as her VP?
So I would pick Senator Kelly from Arizona. I think he's the best pick for her. She has a personal relationship with him. He's an experienced guy. He's he's a veteran. He's a astronaut. He's an American patriot. I think he helps her in the Southwest, which is Arizona, possibly Nevada. But he also helps her in Virginia, where she does need to win Virginia. And just to remind everybody listening in, there's a ton of vets and there's a ton of Navy vets in Virginia. Mark Kelly will resonate with them. I think he can pull a lot of those people over the line. And you can remind people what Donald Trump says about veterans, where he absolutely hates veterans. He thinks that they're stupid for having served and potentially sacrificed for the United States. He's been very honest about that. He told General Kelly that about his own son, who was lost in Iraq 10 years ago. So I think this gentleman, Mark Kelly, will give us an opportunity to explain that and advocate that. I think he could possibly help her in Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. Some people are saying Josh Shapiro. With Josh, she probably picks up a lot of fundraising because he's close to Mike Bloomberg and others. Right. He's a phenomenally successful politician, but I don't think she has a personal relationship with him. And so this has got to be, she's got to pick somebody that she has a personal rapport with. Otherwise, look at what's going on with Donald Trump. How many Scaramucci's being measurements of 11-day time units, is just dull Vance going to last with Trump? That's the question. Because
Trump, do you think that
Trump wants him off the ballot tonight? I know Trump absolutely hated. He looked like he was eating a barbecue shit sandwich while Vance was talking at the convention. The poor guy, you know what I mean?
Well, why did he choose him then, Mooch? Why did he choose him?
Well, listen, I want to be fair to the president. Okay, he was struck with a bullet to his ear. I think that causes levels of trauma that I can't fully understand. We can pretend that he's Mr. Disassociation and he can withstand anything. But when you're that close to death, I think it was a very jarring thing a couple of days before the convention. I think the choices were on the table. His poll numbers were surging, and he did not want anybody to get credit for his electoral success. He's such a pure narcissist that if he picked a Nikki Haley, if he picked a Ron DeSantis, someone could have said, oh, well, they helped Trump get over the finish line. So he didn't want that. And so he figured, let me go with somebody that's a full-on MAGA convert. Just though Vance called him Adolf Hitler, I think Trump probably took it as a compliment.
He might have. You're right. You're right.
You did call me Hitler. I know you're walking it back, but I'm actually okay with it. So
You're probably right. He probably is okay with it.
Let's
Mooch,
take the ride together.
I gotta ask you a little bit about the RNC. First of all, you have a beautiful wife. You're a happily married man, a good father, a good husband. I'm wondering, what do you and your wife think about that awkward hug / sort of kiss on the cheek? What do you make of that in the relationship between Donald Trump and Melania Trump?
Well, first of all, look, I like her, and I know Deirdre, my wife Deirdre, likes her, and I don't ever want to say anything bad about her. Okay, but she hates him. Okay, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be Sigmund Freud and the apex of human psychology not to see the dynamic there. She's made the sacrifice. She's made the decision. Could be a monetary decision. Could be related to her son. It could be Eastern European decision in terms of their discipline. But she's staying with him. But she hates him. She wants nothing to do with him, and she's not going to spend any time with him. And everybody knows that.
Right.
But these guys are so hypocritical. They're coming after the gay community when many of them are closet gays. Okay, I mean, just come on, guys. Will you knock it off? Okay, people have a right to live in our society the way they see fit. Okay, I'm not knocking your sexual orientation. Don't knock my sexual orientation. Let's live and let live. But these guys want to cram down your throat their way of living. And I find it repulsive. I find it disgusting. And, I'm hoping that we can get the narrative out there on Project 2025.
Yes.
People can understand what they're talking about. Let me just 2 seconds on this.
Sure.
So Trump is saying, I'm not associated myself with Project 2025. And then at the very same time he says, well, I want to deport 15 million illegal immigrants. That's right in Project 2025. So you either are or you're not. He's loaded with contradictions and lies.
Sure.
So let's go over that. Okay, that's a Handmaid's Tale episode for the United States. That's armored vehicles into your neighborhood, pulling people out that may or may not be illegal. Oh, by the way, where are you going to put the people? Because you can't just send them across the border. You have to have a process, some type of legal process to get them removed from the country. So you have to put them in camps. So are you going to concentrate them in camps? What would you guys like to do?
Nothing is thought out. Nothing is thought out. To me, that's
America. These are some of the most disgusting, un-American, unpatriotic people in the history of the United States. Okay,
agreed.
They have to be called out for it.
Yep.
We have to challenge them. We have to explain to the American people how bad this is. I may not agree with everything that Kamala Harris stands for. I certainly don't. But what I do agree with is the democracy, and what I do agree with is the fight for the idealism of being American.
Yeah.
And the Trump people do not represent that. They represent this grotesque, disfigured, false claim of patriotism. They try to clothe everything in the American flag, but they're a disgusting group of people. Yeah. And since you let me on your show, I just want to have a public service announcement that the biggest coward in our civilization is Kevin McCarthy, because he could have put Trump right through the ropes on the 7th of January. He would be the Speaker of the House. He would be the great big baller in D.C., but he didn't have the balls to do it. Okay, and now we're still dealing with Donald Trump, who's a convicted felon, twice impeached. A civil jury said that he was a sexual predator, and they awarded $500 million worth of damages to the people that he predated on. He is a miserable, horrific human being, and all he talks about is victimization. All he talks about is a dark America, a dystopian America, and I find it repulsive. But you know what? These people, they don't like black and brown people. Let's just tell your viewers and listeners the truth. And so they look around and say, wait a minute, we have a democracy? Oh, yes, we do. Okay, are white people going to run the country? Well, we have more black and brown people in the country. So wait a minute, that means that black and brown people may run the country? Oh, yes, that means that. Okay, let's change the rules. We should no longer have a democracy. Let's move to a post-constitutional society. And so
what Scaramucci is sort of missing is that camel face on her knees, Kamala Harris, is an anchor baby. She should never have been allowed to become vice president, no different than Obama should never have been allowed into the White House. And he's sort of missing this, all right? You might want to enlighten him. Let's go back.
I want you to hear me. Okay, look up Curtis Yarvin, Yarvin. He is a political philosopher. His acolytes are Peter Thiel and a guy by the name of J.D. Vance. And what did Yarvin say in his writings? That we are no longer equipped as a society to have common men and women be part of the self-governing process. We need aristocrats and sophisticated elites to run the process. Okay. Now, what we know from that is that that's an unmitigated disaster, because what Lincoln said about the American people is that you may not think they're smart, but they are. They have a very good nose. And as Lincoln said, they can smell a rotting cadaver in their basement. Right. And you need common people involved in the process. Do you remember The Remains of the Day with Anthony Hopkins? You're probably too young for that movie.
I know that Donald Trump talks a lot about Hannibal Lecter. I know that.
This is a different character and a more important character. Anthony Hopkins plays a butler, and he's a common man working very hard, and he's a very strict guy, and he's unemotional as a result of this. And one of the aristocrats is asking him very sophisticated questions about foreign policy and about trade. And he says, I'm sorry, I don't know the answers to those. And then the aristocrat turns to the other aristocrats and say, you see, he's adult and he shouldn't be involved in the process of governing. But the great irony is that these aristocrats are currying favor with Adolf Hitler's men. They're visiting them. These Nazis are visiting them, and they're committing treason on behalf of the UK government. And the irony of the story is that the common person who has a great love of country, and the common person who is a dutiful person, should be up for the process of the decision making alongside of the intellectual elites. So the great irony of all this stuff is these bozos that are working with Donald Trump are, quote unquote, and it's not me saying it, it's them saying it, we're looking forward to a post-constitutional America. Well, you know what? The constitutional America that I've lived in my whole life, that's 250 years old, the longest democracy, longest standing democracy. It's the oldest government that's still in existence. I'm good with it the way it is.
Yeah,
okay? As am I. I'm going to fight for it over the next 4 months. As hard as I possibly can.
And they need you. The Democrats need you. The country needs you to do that. I have a quick question for you, though, as far as Jean-Pierre, all due respect to her. If Kamala Harris, if she wins and she asked you to be the press secretary, would you do it?
Just for one day. I would like to get an even dozen days in the White House. So I would say, Madam President, could you just let me, I just want one more press conference. I had a beautiful press conference 7 years ago. People still remember it. I would love to just have one more.
You would be great, though. I'm being serious. I think that would be a great thing if she reached across the other side of the aisle to you, because I think you would do a wonderful job under the right circumstances.
It's very sweet of you to say that, but it's just not the way it works. I'm not one of them. I built my own career. I have my own level of wealth. They don't like people like me because they feel they can't control people like me.
Well, that's unfortunate.
And it's all good. Look, I just want to help her. I would help a coffee mug versus Donald Trump. I would help a cremated ashes in an urn versus Donald Trump. Okay. So
with that said, though, by the way, I'm with you. I've been saying for weeks and months, I would vote for a ham sandwich over Donald Trump.
No question.
But with that said, Mooch, I know that she hasn't picked her VP yet. Regardless of who she picks, if the elections were tomorrow, who do you think wins? And I know it's early to say that.
The election's held tomorrow. Trump will probably win. He has higher name recognition than she does. He's ahead in the polls. He's ahead in the predicted markets. And she just was newly announced as the new nominee. Yeah. Okay. But I believe as this unfolds, as this narrative unfolds over the next 4 months, she will win. The demographic statistics that I gave you favor her.
Right. I didn't even think about the baby boomers who are no longer with us.
All she has to do is execute, Brian.
Right.
If she executes, she's going to win, and it's early.
I do feel like, and I think this is fair criticism, she's not great in front of the camera. She needs to do more interviews and be a little bit better and resonate. Do you think that's fair criticism? If not, or let me know, what are your criticisms?
My criticisms of her, she's trying too hard. Some of that giggle and that the way she over smiles and over laughs is she's trying a little bit too hard. I think she's got to get into presidential mode. She's got to click into that software in her memory system, and she's got to start thinking and acting like the President of the United States. It doesn't mean that she can't be humorous. It doesn't mean she can't have some level of self-deprecation, but she has to get into presidential mode, and she has to moderate some of her positions. And she has to get out there with a speech explaining to people, yes, I had these positions, but now I have those positions. Very similar to Donald Trump. He was against crypto. Now he's for it.
Right.
I want to reflect what's going on in the electorate. I want to serve and represent the people of the United States. And I'll say something that Harry Truman once said. Truman once said, well, he said two things. One was great. If you want a friend, buy a dog in Washington. Obviously, Joe Biden is experiencing that. Mm-hmm. But the second thing Truman said, though, is that this is the only job, the office of the presidency, where every American gets the opportunity, every eligible voter gets the opportunity to vote for the job. No other job in an electoral capacity is every American voting. It's the one job. And so therefore you have to be the lobbyist for all Americans, even the ones that are not voting for you. I think Kamala Harris needs a little bit of that in her narrative in the coming months. And I think it'll impress the independents if she does that.
Question before I let you go, Mooch, and I always appreciate your time. I mean, Fox News and the far right, any of those networks, OAN Newsmax, are they even reaching out to you anymore? Because I love it when you make appearances on both networks.
No,
I saw you on. Yeah, go ahead.
They don't reach out to me because they don't like the rebuttal. And also, I'm armed with the facts, right? They have a contorted narrative. Like they're running stories now about the Secret Service, and I accept that the Secret Service failed the country.
Sure.
But underneath that, there's an implication that there's something deep state-like and sinister. You see what I mean?
Yeah, ridiculous.
Which is absurd. Nobody wanted President Trump hurt.
Right.
If we are victims of something, it's a failure of the bureaucracy. Mm-hmm. Those guys are not allowed to engage unless shots are fired. They scoped the sniper. They should have taken out the sniper. But, God forbid it was someone up there with a water gun or something like that. They would be going to jail for manslaughter. We're in a weird society.
Yes, we are.
We have to change the rules of engagement. We have to de-bureaucratize the Secret Service.
Anthony Scaramucci is wrong. If he was there with a water gun, but people thought that it was a real weapon, then the shoot would have been justified. And he's also wrong to say that nobody wants Trump dead. He's absolutely wrong. And that's just my opinion. Let's go back. It's almost over.
If there is an indictment to be made, when Trump's team asked for more Secret Service people, the woman at the top that just resigned, I think her name is Cheadle, Director Cheadle.
Correct. Yeah.
She said no. And that was the mistake. And I applaud Joe Biden for fortifying Trump's detail to the presidential level.
Sure.
Making the decision now to guard Bobby Kennedy Jr. And I think we have to recognize that we want our ideas and we want our thoughts on policy to be worked out in the ballot box. Political violence is an absolute aberration and it's an abhorrence, and I detest it. And I would rather have Donald Trump become president than have him maimed or killed, God forbid.
Sure, of course.
It's not something that we can tolerate in our society.
Agree. My only criticism of CNN is they don't let you talk enough, Mooch. I could listen to you all day, so I appreciate the time. I wish they would give you a little bit more time, but hey, that's how TV works, right, my man?
That's how it works. Short and sweet, brother. Brian,
that's right.
Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll see each other soon.
I hope so, Mooch. Love you, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
Same
appreciate
here, bro. Thank you.
So, what do you think, huh? I'll attach the link, pass it along, and thanks for listening.